Olá, sejam bem-vindas e bem-vindos ao oitavo Your Voice, o concurso cultural de discursos da cultura inglesa. Criado em 2014, o Your Voice chega agora em sua oitava edição, em um formato totalmente digital e uma premiação para lá de especial. Vocês verão aqui na competição alunos da cultura inglesa dos estados de São Paulo, Santa Catarina, Bahia, Rio de Janeiro, Rio Grande do Sul, Distrito Federal, Goiás, Tocantins e Espírito Santo, de níveis de inglês básico, intermediário e avançado. O objetivo da cultura inglesa com esse evento é valorizar a importância da comunicação oral no mundo, preparar o aluno da cultura inglesa para expressar as suas ideias com segurança em público, propiciar ao aluno da cultura inglesa um momento muito especial de pesquisa e troca cultural com seus pares. E, por fim, apoiar e valorizar o aluno da cultura inglesa que deseja ser um agente transformador no mundo a partir do compartilhamento das suas ideias. Nessa edição, gente, nós recebemos mais de 1.500 inscrições. Na primeira fase do concurso, os candidatos deveriam mandar o seu discurso em formato de vídeo. Eles foram avaliados por um time de jurados e destes vídeos, 475 alunas e alunos passaram para as nossas quartas de final, que aconteceram algumas semanas atrás. Nessas quartas de final, eles se apresentaram aqui, nessa plataforma, de maneira ao vivo, e desses 475, 160 passaram para as semifinais, discursando 100% em inglês. Não é pouca coisa, né? Todo mundo que está aqui já é grande vencedor, já tem muito para se sentir orgulhoso. Bom, vocês estão conosco aí desde das quartas de final, ao vivo, então a gente sabe que as regras permanecem as mesmas, mas vamos passar aí só para confirmar e ver se está tudo ok, tá bom? Primeira coisa, vocês que estão com a gente, nos assistindo pela plataforma do Your Voice, sejam muito bem-vindos. Espero que vocês já estejam aí torcendo pelos seus candidatos e candidatas favoritos, tá bom? Vocês podem interagir conosco, clicando no chat e também fazer posts na rede social da plataforma, que fica no menu na lateral esquerda. Então, aqui à esquerda você clica em mensagens e abre uma janelinha para você colocar elas aqui à direita, tá bom? Bom, ao se inscrever, os candidatos escolheram um time do qual queriam participar. Nós temos 8 times participantes, representados pelos 8 grandes oradores que vocês viram na nossa vinheta de abertura. Nessa sessão em específico, nós temos candidatos dos times Malala Yousafzai, Mahatma Gandhi, Emma Watson e Martin Luther King. Todos eles concorrendo juntos a 3 vagas por categoria na grande final. Ao se inscreverem, esses alunos foram divididos em 7 categorias diferentes, de acordo com o nível de inglês de cada um. Cada candidato concorre, então, somente com aqueles que estão inseridos na mesma categoria, ou seja, no mesmo nível de inglês, tá bom? Na sessão que a gente está começando nesse momento, vão se apresentar primeiramente os candidatos da categoria 7 e depois os candidatos da categoria 9. As regras de duração e número de perguntas para as duas categorias, 7 e 9, são as mesmas, tá bom? Só que tem uma pequena diferença na nossa categoria 9, que é chamada de Poetry Slam, porque esses candidatos vão apresentar o seu discurso em formato de poesia falada. Vamos repassar essas regras agora. Cada categoria ela vai possuir uma duração de discurso diferente. A duração estipulada para os discursos das categorias 7 e 9, que são as contempladas aqui, é de 3 minutos. Mas, claro, nós temos uma tolerância. Então, o candidato deve apresentar o seu discurso entre 2 minutos e 30 segundos e 3 minutos e 30 segundos. Nós temos aqui conosco na sala do Zoom uma timekeeper, que é a Vanessa, que vai controlar a duração de cada apresentação e vai fazer soar um sinal como esse, para alertar o candidato sobre a duração do discurso. Então, essa sineta ela vai ser ouvida quando o candidato atingir 2 minutos e 30, quando o candidato atingir 3 minutos, e será tocado uma terceira e última vez, caso o candidato atingir 3 minutos e 30 segundos. Então, assim, o candidato que terminar o discurso antes da primeira sineta, 2 minutos e 30, ou após a terceira sineta, depois de 3 minutos e 30, pode ser penalizado. Então, prestem bastante atenção, pessoal. Pelo menos escutar a primeira sinetinha, tá bom? Depois do término da apresentação, esses candidatos respondem a perguntas. E cada categoria tem uma regra específica quanto a isso. No caso das categorias 7 e 9 aqui, os candidatos respondem a 2 perguntas. E aqui tem uma coisa muito especial. Elas podem ser feitas pelos nossos jurados, que estão aqui conosco, Mas eu gostaria de convidar vocês, candidatos e candidatas, a fazerem essas perguntas para os seus colegas também, tá bom? Então demonstra que a gente está aí prestando atenção, torcendo pelos nossos colegas e aprendendo deles também. Então não tem uma regra que tem que ser obrigatoriamente uma por candidato e uma por jurado, ou assim sucessivamente. Então, se vocês se sentirem com vontade de fazer a pergunta, podem levantar a mão fisicamente ou usar a ferramenta de levantar a mão aqui também, para que eu possa chamá-los para fazer essa pergunta, tá bom? A duração máxima para a resposta de cada pergunta é de 1 minuto, e o candidato que não iniciar a sua resposta em até 10 segundos perde a chance de responder. Então, tomem bastante cuidado com isso. E vocês que estão nos assistindo, plateia, vocês participam novamente com a gente, tá bom? Porque quando acabar a categoria, a gente vai abrir um link no chat para que o público possa votar no seu candidato favorito, que é o nosso prêmio por voto popular. O candidato eleito no Audience Choice vai ganhar um reader, um livro digital da NetGeo. Mas eu vou falar mais disso mais para frente. Bom, caso a conexão de algum candidato falhar ou cair antes ou durante a sua apresentação, não precisa se preocupar, tá? A gente vai seguir com as apresentações, se a gente não conseguir arrumar isso no momento da apresentação, e ao final da categoria, esse candidato ele vai ter uma segunda oportunidade de apresentar o seu discurso, sem nenhum tipo de penalização. Nenhum candidato sofre nenhum tipo de penalização por problemas com a internet, tá bom? Aqui comigo nós temos os jurados e juradas, a Carol, a Lua e o Lécio. Vocês ainda não estão vendo, o pessoal aqui do Zoom já está vendo, mas em breve vocês vão conhecê-lo. Eles vão avaliar esses discursos apresentados e vão se reunir depois da apresentação desses candidatos para definir quem vai para a nossa grande final. E hoje, pessoal, nós temos ainda uma grande novidade. Os 3 finalistas de cada grupo, no final, vão receber uma sessão de feedback personalizado e individualizado com os nossos jurados, para que possam chegar na final ainda assim, ó, muito mais afiados e muito mais preparados, tá bom? Como esse é o momento de semifinal que a gente quer lembrar, eu vou pedir para todo mundo arrumar seu cabelo, se preparar bonito, para a gente tirar uma foto e lembrar desse momento no futuro. Preparou? 3, 2... Espera o Pedro. Sorrisão, Pedro. Aê! Arrasou, gente. Então tá bom. Agora eu vou chamar a Flávia para fazer o sorteio, para a gente saber qual vai ser a ordem de apresentação de cada um das nossas categorias. Flávia, é com você.
Olá, muito boa tarde a todos. Sejam bem-vindos. Como a Cris falou, nós vamos sortear agora a ordem de apresentação. Eu vou compartilhar minha tela aqui com vocês, só um momentinho. Primeiro, nós vamos fazer o sorteio da categoria 7, tá? Então, estão todos os nomes aqui em ordem alfabética. Vamos embaralhar os nomes. Então, a primeira pessoa a se apresentar na categoria 7 será o Pedro Tasso. Depois vem o Vitor Scaravelli, o Matheus Correia, a Beatriz dos Santos, a Ellen Góes e o Ricardo de Almeida. Então, essa aqui foi a categoria 7. Agora, nós vamos fazer o sorteio da categoria 9. Nós temos 2 candidatos participando. Vamos embaralhar. Então, o primeiro da categoria 9 a se apresentar será o Renan e depois a Luísa. Tenham todos uma boa apresentação, respirem. Boa sorte.
Sem mais delongas, vamos dar início à apresentação dos candidatos da semifinal da categoria 7, nessa tarde de domingo aí. Pela ordem do sorteio, eu gostaria de convidar o candidato Pedro Tasso Botkowski para apresentar o seu discurso. Pedro, quando você estiver pronto, pode começar.
Okay, so good evening. Today I came to talk a little about how we expect too much from heroes. Well, heroes are an important part of our society, both culturally and practically, because everybody has someone it admires, it likes, it idolizes. So heroes are really important. But here's the deal: I chose Mahatma Gandhi as it was my team choice because I think he represents a lot about a hero that people expect too much, because he was a leader of India in the last century, and he was a pacifist. He guaranteed India and Pakistan both united independence. But after he died shortly after he managed to get India's independence. India and Pakistan started fighting each other. And it is a great example because people still admire Gandhi, people still make statues of him, but all his legacy of uniting both India and Pakistani people under one rule, both two different peoples united for one common proposal. Now they're fighting. So people expected that Gandhi should be eternal. He isn't eternal. He died, and now there's no more Gandhi, but his legacy is still alive. So people should inspire themselves on Gandhi to keep everything he did alive, keep doing peace, keep making things better. Because if you expect that a hero will do everything, you won't get success. Because when a hero dies, his legacy is alive, but he can't do anything more. So I think it is really important in our society for people to inspire themselves on heroes, but everyone should do its own part. When you're watching a TV journal, you can see every night someone that saved a children, someone that did something really heroical. But so this person is a hero, but still, everyone should do things that make the world a better place. That alone that makes you a hero. So I think one great example of a hero that we still have today is Angela Merkel, because she was a woman, she was a leader of Germany, and she was a great leader, and herself as a leading position made open space for several other women to get into politicians. Surely, if someone gets to be leader of Germany in the future and it's a woman, it will be thanks to Merkel and everything she did to break stereotypes. That's it. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Pedro, pelo seu discurso. Eu gostaria de convidar os nossos candidatos ou jurados a fazerem as duas perguntas. Jurado Lécio, pode fazer a primeira pergunta.
Hello, Pedro. Pedro, Gandhi was alive, and Angela Merkel was in activity. They generated great expectations. Who in activity nowadays do you expect anything from?
Well, I think I expect someone in activity now from, I think, Greta Thunberg. She is from another team, but well, she isn't doing anything like great recently. In the last months, she kind of didn't do anything so relevant. But she's just 18 years old. So everything she did until this age, like being Times Person of the Year award, inspires many other young people, such as the people we have here in the room, to do their part as the world is a better place. Because young people can change the world. I think Greta Thunberg still has a lot of things to do. If I didn't choose Mahatma Gandhi, I would choose her as my team. So I think it's a person I expect a lot, and I inspire myself a lot.
Thank you very much, Pedro.
Muito obrigada. Eu convido agora a jurada Carol para fazer a segunda pergunta.
Hello, Pedro. Thank you for your speech. So in your speech and in your previous answer, you mentioned people, foreign people. Yes, I would like to know if there's anyone in Brazil who inspires you, who you consider to be a good activist or a hero.
Brazil's history is very rich. We were one of the last countries to abolish slavery, and that's something that marks our society as negative. So I think that Zumbi dos Palmares, he freed a lot of slaves, and I think he's someone that people here in Brazil should get inspiration from, because racism is still alive. There's a lot of cases of racism recently, especially having a grow, and people should inspire Black people that revolted against racism. And I think Zumbi dos Palmares is a great national option.
Thank you for your answer.
Obrigada, Pedro, pelo seu discurso, obrigada, jurados, pelas perguntas. E agora eu gostaria de convidar o candidato Vitor Scaravelli Quirrada-Azaro para apresentar o seu discurso. Vitor, assim que você estiver pronto, pode começar.
Well, hello. Certainly, many of us have already heard about the following saying: you should never expect too much from our personal heroes. But despite the iteration, seldom do we actually take time to understand its true meaning. The saying is not counseling us to avoid everything related to the ones we appreciate, but instead to keep in mind they are humans just like us, and all humans are prone to the same mistakes. Meeting our heroes may become an unpleasant experience if they have, for instance, an astronomical ego and an apathetic behavior, because we are not perfect and are meant to be. This experience teaches us to eschew idolizing strangers. By no means are they going to be the exact way we expected them to be, and that's not bad at all, in most cases. On the other hand, heroes can serve as role models. For instance, a very famous Brazilian hero is Ayrton Senna, someone that many still look up to. Therefore, not only they become better as humans, trying to achieve similar deeds as Senna did, but they are also chasing personal improvement. Personally, I choose Malala as my team in the competition because I also see her as a hero. She wasn't afraid of the reckoning despite she posed a real-life threat to her. But there are exceptions of good heroes. The popular TV series The Boys portrayed very well that not all heroes are an epitome of kindness. Moreover, raising expectation about the indiscriminate capability of our heroes to be perfect or perform miracles is indeed a problem. Being an artist, a politician, or even our very close relatives and friends, they aren't miracles and they won't fix things in a snap of fingers. And that brings the top. Don't expect somebody to solve all your problems. For instance, maybe you are such a naive romantic undergoing a very deep depression, hoping and praying that somebody is going to come out of nowhere and solve your life like, whoa. This is of course not happening, but despite this being common knowledge, many people are stuck in similar situations. Yes, it's a very problematic consequence of laziness. Nobody wants to solve their problems on their own, but there's no other feasible way. Taking the initiative is tough, but keep in mind you don't have to do it alone. Searching for physical and psychological help is no sign of weakness. So after all, what we can extract from the saying is, we shouldn't. But we expect too much from our heroes. Things in our life or community will only change if we take the initiative. So don't be afraid of being your own hero.
Muito obrigada, Vitor, pelo seu discurso. Eu gostaria de convidar primeiro o candidato Ricardo para fazer uma pergunta e depois a jurada Carol para fazer a segunda pergunta.
If may I? Good afternoon for everybody. Vitor, I love some parts of your speech. I got so much pleasure from it. And I understand all the part of the laziness of the people to be active and be doing your parts to be your hero of your story, your own story. So what could you do to avoid this laziness, these things you do how can I say, who not improve your achievements? What do you want to get in your life? How you can combat this kind of thing, the laziness?
I think the first step you should do is admit you are with the problem. You have a problem. That is the first step every time. The second step is that if you don't think you can handle it alone, as I said in my speech, you have to search for help. Maybe it be a therapist or even your friends. If they are your real friends and your family, they will help you. So yes, if you don't take the initiative, nobody will. But if you like try to get some help, I think you can change this. You can change the laziness. It's just routine. If you change your routine, it ends up changing your life. I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Vitor. In your speech, you mentioned that you've chosen Malala as your team, right? And I would like to know about your opinion on how important it is to discuss education, since Malala is an activist for education, not only in Brazil, but in other countries as well. How important it is to discuss it?
I think education is like the best weapon that we have against poverty. It's by education that we raise in social classes, and it's by education that we learn about our situation. Malala fought about women education in Pakistan, right? And she did this because Pakistan they follow Sharia very strictly, that is the Islamic law. And they do this because they want to alienate the population. That's why many dictatorships don't provide education for everybody. And that's why we should look for education, because education is the sign of freedom. It's with education that we achieve many things in life. And it's with education we will change the world. It's my expectation.
Mine too. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Vitor, pelo seu discurso. Obrigada, jurados e candidatos, pelas perguntas. E agora eu gostaria de chamar o candidato Matheus Correia dos Reis para apresentar o seu discurso. Matheus, quando você estiver pronto, tire do mudo e pode começar.
Hi, good afternoon. Running like the clappers, passing knowledge down from generation to generation, giving your voice so as to combat global issues and such like. Well, if I were in your shoes, I would contemplate taking these traits I've just highlighted into account, seeing as all that are related to heroes, such as teachers, frontline healthcare workers, activists, and so forth. What is more, we've been surrounded by these influential figures ever since we were born, and they tend to come out all over the place, right, left, the center, through blockbusters, bestsellers, advertising hoardings, among other things. For that matter, I wonder if this is the reason why we worship the ground our role models walk on. And just for the record, guys, other questions come to mind as well. I mean, what is a hero for you? Is it someone capable of climbing the walls, or a person in a real life, like a doctor, who would make the ultimate sacrifice for someone else in the face of danger? How come we put them on a pedestal? So, with a view to answering these questions, let's take a trip down memory lane. To begin with, when I was a kid, I used to love pretending to be the Spider-Man in the light of his powers and capacities. However, at that moment, I couldn't distinguish reality from fictionality to the fullest. Because when you surround yourself with your favorite idols as and when you can at the age of 5, 6, chances are that you will pin all your faith, hopes on them, as if they were braver than you, stronger than you, and first and foremost, a figure to be idolized, worshipped, venerated, revered in somehow, you see? Secondly, I'd like to place emphasis on a quote by Greta Thunberg, which is, "You are never too small to make a difference." What does it imply exactly? To my way of thinking, each of us is capable of shaping the world for the better, being the heroes we've always looked forward to, as long as we stand our ground, stick to our guns, and believe in ourselves, in spite of others' criticism, contradictions, preconceptions, hardships, and this and that. So to sum up, the justification for hero worshipping our idols is simply due to the fact that they do represent the product of our cravings, aspirations, identities in life. Because of that, it's vitally important to rock the foundations of a hero's notion, concept. That is to say, put a different complexion on it by demonstrating that no one is perfect, and everyone is supposed to fall to pieces, make blunders, live and learn new things, hit the skids, face setbacks. Don't you guys see eye to eye with me here? You see, there is no point in looking up too much to other individuals, when in fact, you should write your own story, because you are possible. It's just a matter of belief and principle. After all, heroes aren't made by their powers. They are made by the experiences and paths they go through and choose as well. Thank you.
Obrigada, Matheus, pelo seu discurso. Gostaria de chamar a jurada Lua para fazer a primeira pergunta.
Hello, Matheus. Thank you for your speech. Do you think that it's possible to have a hero, an icon that is not in a pedestal, that and still can inspire you to perceive your goals?
Well, that's a good question, and the way I see it, it's really possible, to find this balance between looking up to someone, not in an over-the-top way, but in a way you can, having someone you can rely on and that can help you to attain and achieve what you're looking for. But I confess to, having found it's not easy at all, to find this balance. Because most of the time what normally happens is that people tend to rely on living up too much to these heroes' expectations. And that's why, people tend to think, sometimes are not able to think clearly about something. So I think it's one of the biggest challenges on these days is to find this balance and, try to find these things in common.
Obrigada. E agora eu gostaria de convidar o jurado Lécio para fazer a segunda pergunta. Lécio, eu acho que está com um probleminha na sua câmera. Está tudo acinzentado. Agora voltou. Arrasou.
There was a piece of paper in front of it. Hello, Matheus.
Hi.
Matheus, thanks for your speech. I'll go straight to my question. Where else can you get inspiration from in order to build your personality, knowledge, or the person you want to be? As you mentioned that the idea of relying on people to that is rather questionable.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it has been, as I mentioned, one of the biggest challenges. So I think it would be interesting if I could, make a boat for an off the beaten track place, a place where I could, commune with nature and only try to identify myself, discover new things, just like I mentioned, live and learn new things. Because the more you learn about yourself and you discover about your likes, dislikes, and tastes, the more likely you are to have this particular definition about what is a hero like. And as a result of that, I think it helps you to see what sort of heroes are by your side. I mean, either fictional ones or not, what you really need to value on these days. So being in a place where there aren't, many people coming and going and a lot of noise, helps you to analyze and think long and hard about it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Matheus.
Obrigada, Matheus, pelo seu discurso. Obrigada, jurados, pelas perguntas. Gostaria de convidar agora a nossa quarta candidata da categoria 7, a Beatriz dos Santos Figueiredo, para apresentar seu discurso. A Beatriz não está conosco aqui na sala Zoom, então no final da categoria nós vamos chamar o nome dela uma segunda vez, para dar a oportunidade dela apresentar. A nossa quinta candidata, então, da categoria 7, que eu convido agora, é a Ellen Góes. Ellen, quando você estiver pronta, pode começar.
Hello, folks. Early on in our lives, our parents are the first heroes we have, and as we grow older, we realized how much we expected from them and that they are just human beings. Even though we continue expecting too much from people we admire, from athletes to celebrities and even politicians, and occasionally we get disappointed with them. It makes sense to conclude that even with ourselves, we expect too much as well. Considering all the exposure and overload of information we get from social media, with people sharing their version of a perfect life or an important matter we should be caring about, it's almost impossible we don't feel we are behind. For example, I myself stopped to follow some people on social media because it makes me feel anxious that I'm not doing enough and I should work harder. And talking about working harder, you probably heard the quote. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary, or work gives a man dignity. These quotes show how our society values hard work. And if you get all these elements, the idea we should work harder, the comparison we have on social media, plus how easy it is to stay connected with our jobs, we have a recipe that can lead us to burnout. In case you don't know, burnout is when one is exhausted due to mental or emotional stress, or can lead us to a new phenomenon called quiet quitting. That is when in one's workplace doesn't do above or beyond expected, just the minimum. These phenomena are symptoms that we need to reevaluate what success means for us. So my invitation is, in order to have healthy relationships in our lives, reflect about these points and step back and be more caring with ourselves and with others. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Ellen, pelo seu discurso. Eu gostaria de convidar o candidato Vitor para fazer a primeira pergunta e a jurada Lua para fazer a segunda pergunta.
Hello, Ellen. Earlier in your speech, you said that we have too much pressure from these models that we have in society to be something that sometimes we can't achieve. Do you think that in our lives we can become heroes even without achieving like such high deeds?
Yes, Victor, I believe that we don't need to be perfect to do something meaningful. And I think, for example, Malala, that's also I choose Malala because I think she does a really incredible work. And I know that she's not perfect, but even so, she's amazing. And the other teams icons too. So I totally agree with this.
Thank you.
Hello, Ellen. Thank you for your speech. You mentioned that the expectation we have from our heroes can be a reflex to the expectations that we have from ourselves. Can you mention a possible solution to coexist, to find a balance between these expectations and still coexist with our heroes?
I believe that we need to have a variety of people we admire with different backgrounds, styles, and we have more diversity with people we admire from different backgrounds. I think if we can find someone more similar with us, and we more, I don't know, maybe we have less pressure to try to search for a specific type of ideal, something like that. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, candidatos e jurados, pelas perguntas. Obrigada, Ellen, pelo seu discurso. E agora eu gostaria de convidar o sexto candidato da categoria 7, Ricardo Almeida Dádio, para apresentar o seu discurso. Ricardo, quando você estiver pronto, pode começar.
Thank you all. Good afternoon again. Let's jump right in. We expect too much from our heroes. The term hero comes from the ancient Greeks. For them, a hero was a mortal who had done something so far beyond the normal scope of human experience, so then left an immortal memory behind when died, and thus receive worship like do the gods. As historians and activists have noted for generations, heroes are often made mythic in ways that are troubling. Social change is never wrought by individuals. To ripen socially is a collective endeavor, and the romantic ideal of hero obscured that truth. Recent civil rights movements, like movement called Black Lives Matters, have been deliberate about describing themselves as leaderless or leaderful, in order to emphasize the importance of the collective while rejecting the model of charismatic male leader. The decision to choose to be leaderless or leaderful models is a refutation of the ideal of the traditional hero, martial, dominant, and authoritarian in style. It also recognizes the ways in which so many important figures have been excluded from being cast as heroes, because they don't fit in the standard image, whether because of queerness, gender nonconformity, femininity, or mental or physical disability. The practice of overlooking these heroic people is ironic, given that by navigating this vantage often requires heroic labors. That said, heroes remain. They resonate with people for a good reason. Human beings organize knowledge through storytelling, and we raise in the light of those stories we heard and tell. Having stories that give us courage and inspiration are always necessary, but especially when we're facing injustice. In trying times, and we are mightily tried, we need inspiration. Rather than an absolute rejection of the idea of the hero, we would do better to tell fuller and truer stories about who we place in those ranks, to deepen our understanding of them as fallible human beings. And we must include critically important people who are often left off the rolls. However, even as explained, the pantheon of who counts as heroes, the heroic figure remains a juggernaut. As we freeze them on an altar of adoration, we run the risk of losing our critical perspective regarding who they were, complex human beings. In the world of social media, an information age with 24 hours news cycles, heroes rise and fall in a spectacular fashion on a daily basis. So just to summarize this, we don't need to expect anything from our heroes. They are just humans as everyone and provide us example to how to proceed in life, so we can take the leash of life and be the heroes of our own story. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada pelo seu discurso, Ricardo. Eu convido o candidato Vitor para fazer a primeira pergunta.
Hello, Ricardo. So, in your speech, you try to differentiate the difference between ancient heroes and modern heroes, and how the ancient definition was a little bit off. So, do you think that the modern heroes, and despite they being not exactly like the ancient heroes, they are more impactful than them?
I believe they're just different. I just use some ancient concept to bring some ideas of what we put on this pedestal, this pantheon of heroes. So just to have a pad, have a floor to be on with that. But I believe the meaning of this word hero is much more large than was, because for me, a single mother who have a job and have to care about your son, that was a hero for me, a very good hero.
Thank you.
Obrigada, Vitor. Obrigada, Ricardo, pela resposta. Eu gostaria de chamar a Carol para fazer a segunda pergunta.
Hello, Ricardo.
Hello.
Something that you mentioned in your speech that really caught my attention was about the movements which are leaderless. And I would like to know if you believe that a movement with a leader who's considered to be a hero is more or less effective than a movement which is leaderless but moves more people.
I don't know if I can explain here what's better or not, but for me, I think it's more important to be leaderless, because in this kind of process, in this kind of establishment in the organization, you have ways to put everyone in the place of heroes. So everyone have their responsibility and everyone has to be active. So I believed in this case would do better than charismatic leader. But even also we have Gandhi, we have Martin Luther King, we have another amazing, great leaders and who inspire us. But I believe we have to evolve everything we have been through. So this is one way to be leaderless and everyone assumes the responsibility.
Thank you very much, Ricardo.
Muito obrigada, Ricardo, pelo seu discurso. Obrigada, candidatos e jurados, pelas perguntas. Nós encerramos a categoria 7, então, como eu comentei, como de praxe, eu vou chamar novamente a candidata que não estava na primeira chamada para dar a ela uma segunda chance. Então, eu chamo aqui a Beatriz dos Santos Figueiredo para apresentar o seu discurso. Beatriz, quando você estiver pronta, pode tirar do mudo e apresentar.
Yes, first of all, I'm so sorry for being late. I had some problems here with my internet and things like it, but I'm ready. And again, sorry for making you all lose time. So we expect too much of our heroes. When we think about the term hero, the concept that usually comes to mind would be superheroes, just as Batman, Iron Man, Wonder Woman, and plenty of others. People with superpowers who use them for a greater good, having a perfect or almost perfect moral code. But analyzing through history, heroes weren't as we know them today. The first form of heroes we've met were gods and demigods in ancient Greece and Rome. But those heroes weren't as morally perfect as the ones we know today, proving the point that even divine figures may be imperfect. How could we expect perfection from an imperfect world ruled by the extremely imperfect human race? Two of the main heroic characters from Greek mythology were Heracles and Achilles, the main character of the Iliad. Hercules was famous by his famous 12 works, the selfless works of Hercules. But he did not do it because he was good. He did it to erase the sin of killing his family. Achilles, by another point of view, the main character of the Iliad, was known by his heel, his physical flaw. But when we go analyzing Homer's text, we know that his actual flaw was his pride. Achilles, because of a fight with his supervisor Agamemnon, refused to fight against the Trojans with absolutely no compassion with the men he fought with for years. His best friend, Patroclus, felt really bad for his dying friends and dressed Achilles' armature and went to battle. Only when Patroclus died, Achilles came back to fight, not for wanting to help, revenge reasons only. The point we can take from both of those stories is, the ancients did not expect it for their heroes to be perfect. So why do we? Every heroic figure in our eyes is the closest to perfection as possible. Humanity is constantly reaching for perfect models, even when we know that's impossible. Since we are born with our parents, we see them as people who won't disappoint. But humans make mistakes. And when those mistakes come from people that we always expected perfection, it usually tends to be more significant. I believe that the only way of deconstructing those impossibly heavy standards is exercising general acceptance, similar to Nietzsche's love body concept. to embrace our flaws, mortality, and finitude of life. Because heroes fight their own battles as well, face their own flaws, and make their own mistakes. Acceptance is the key to set realistic expectations and not to expect too much of our heroes. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada, Beatriz, pelo seu discurso. E agora eu gostaria de convidar os nossos candidatos e os nossos jurados a fazerem 2 perguntas sobre seu discurso. Começo chamando aqui o jurado Lécio para fazer a primeira pergunta.
Hello, Beatriz.
Hi.
Hey, you mentioned Greek mythology and ancient sorts of inspiration, among other things. I would like to know where, and I can see a lot of books in your shelf,
Yes.
where do you draw inspiration from?
Well, I can say that I draw inspiration, especially from the ancient writers, not only Homer, as I quoted here, but also Hesiod, Shakespeare, and plenty of others. I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part?
No, that was it. Where you draw
That was it?
inspiration.
Okay, thank you, I'm
Thanks.
sorry.
Obrigada, jurado Lécio. Agora eu convido a jurada Carol para fazer a segunda pergunta.
Hello, Bia. So I was listening to your speech and trying to word my question. Let me try it, okay? So you've talked about Hercules and his motivation for the 12 works that he did. And then you also talked about Achilles and his motivation. So their motivations were not the best, but they were still considered heroes. So what I would like to ask is about your opinion on motivations. Do you think that the reasons why people do things make them less of heroes or not? Or it just doesn't matter the motivation, it matters what they did?
It's a great question. I actually think that the reasons why people do things not necessarily make them less heroic, but we have to analyze that they are not as selfless and morally perfect as we would expect. When someone does something because they actually want to please others and to make good things, I think that should be more valorized than when someone does something for an example, getting something from it, like charity. I can quote something that a lot of Christian people do charity because they are afraid of going to hell. But there are a lot of atheist people and people from other religions who do charity because they are trying to make good things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bia.
Obrigada, jurados. Obrigada, Beatriz, pelo seu discurso. E com isso nós encerramos oficialmente a categoria 7 dessa manhã, desse começo de tarde do domingo. Parabéns a todos. Parabéns a todos os discursos. É muito interessante a gente perceber diversos pontos de vista dentro de um tema em comum, que é o We Expect Too Much from Our Heroes. Bom, gente, amei. E agora chegou o momento de você, querido público, escolher os seus candidatos favoritos, quer dizer, o seu candidato favorito, ou candidata. Então, nesse momento, estamos colocando lá no chat a votação para o nosso voto popular, nosso Audience Choice. Então, vai lá, copia aquele link, cola no seu navegador e vota no seu candidato ou candidata favorito. Lembrando que ele vai ganhar um reader digital da NatGeo por ser o Audience Choice. E também lembrando que essa votação não tem conexão nenhuma com quem vai para a final, tá bom? Pode acontecer a coincidência do candidato escolhido pelo público também ser escolhido pelos jurados, mas pode não acontecer. Beleza? Então, assim, 1 minutinho para você votar, rapidinho, e a gente vai agora dar início às apresentações da categoria 9, gente. E lembrando, a categoria 9, ela é um pouquinho diferente, porque ela é a nossa categoria de poesia falada, ou Poetry Slam. E depois a gente vai trazer o resultado do voto do público, tanto da categoria 7 quanto da categoria 9, juntamente com as deliberações ao final desse bloco. Bom, dando início à categoria 9, então, de acordo com o nosso sorteio, eu gostaria de convidar o candidato Renan de Oliveira Matei para apresentar a sua poesia falada. Renan, quando você estiver pronto, pode tirar do mudo e começar.
Above all the evil forces that threatens mankind, a reason rose models seem to teach unwise, flawless people unlike anyone you find. Make no mistake about dreams in disguise, imaginary creations made up by our minds, better aware than blindfolded I advise. For tragedy may be the price paid by anyone who depends on fate's aid. Ancient Greek epos meant both poem and word, countless stories of outstanding challenge overcome herd, inspiring hundreds of generations over heroes deeply steered. People whose wills could not be deterred, whether spread in the form of a tale or a song, epic has been not only the nowadays known genre, but a poem all along. As many times we caught critics betting about the death of art, a movement in a moment not so far ago did the same with poetry and took its spot, recovering the passion that fills the eyes with tears throughout the ideas that comes from the heart. At the debut of screen-dependent communication era, slam poetry has given poems a fresh new start. In spite of that, throughout the web, in a media-driven society, with access to information of infinite variety, algorithms must reproduce totems of notoriety. No recognized space for acceptance of new voices. It seems like the way one thinks or behaves is out of choices, either a pre-made formula or the epithet of impiety. As poem reading circles had been previously progressively razor cut from its emotional death roots, fallen in a rut, so did our consciousness of dynamism and leadership and our ability to outstrip mythical creatures those leaders became, disguised under unachievable concepts of heroism. Who to blame? One slight detail, but of utmost importance for the speech poetry to prevail. They were not gods, they were mortals like you and me. So we'll change the odds, we'll open portals, we will not flee. In real life, who's at your side, who supports you when in desperation you plead? The world is dangerous and it is wild, rest careless and soon sorry you will be. Although miracles might eventually happen, a call heard from heaven, chances are you'll be skinned alive by life in a constant and absolute vortex towards strife. Heart in tatters, what really matters is that you stand up, not on your knees, is that you act up, with expertise. Expect not to be taken in consideration by politicians who sell the lives of those you love or even yours for a small amount of pennies. Expect not to be spared by a corporation whose multi-billionaire profits will delete you without a glimpse of hesitation. Expect not to be respected by those who live in fear or ignorance or hate. Keep your guard though, after resisting so much time under the rule of brutal forces, not to end up transformed in an equally monstrous creature or reproduce mirrored violence. If you need, take a moment, breathe in and out a defense in order not to lose your senses and join the weaker. Those who in that succeed, that is the seed to lead into a better world. Epic is the path of ordinary folks who, despite all human atrocities and life's bad jokes, merge taking measures with an unbeatable belief that invokes a potential horizon. No matter how unbalanced their circumstances may be, they set in their minds and land in the world what they really see beyond the boundaries of freedom. Slamming poetry is the comprehension that a powerful vision resonates in all dimensions, but not unless channeled through us, materialized through our voice intentions. Our heroes guide us with examples, expansions of tangible realities. Who decide to walk across the fire and how? Who has the strength to do so now are us.
Muito obrigada, Renan, pela sua poesia falada. Eu gostaria de convidar agora a jurada Carol para fazer a primeira pergunta e o jurado Lécio para fazer a segunda pergunta.
Hello, Renan. Thank you so much for your poetry. And I'm going to coach you on my question. And I'm going to ask, who's at your side when in desperation you plead?
Wow. Fortunately, that is a very easy question to answer. There are friends and family who I can count on. There's my father, for example, who has not ever given up on me in believing in my potential. There are friends that when I'm sad, then when I'm thinking about giving up, when I'm defeated by life, they come, they cherish, they hug me, they give me their strength, their love, their caring. And even sometimes out in the wild of the streets, there are people who will look at you and who will out of nowhere see sometimes that you are not feeling that fine, and they will grab your hand, they will cherish you, they say, wow, there's life is beautiful. And then that all gives you strength and motivation to rise again and go for your dreams, go for your fights, go for what you believe. So thankfully, I can count on those people.
Thank you so much for your truth, Renan.
Hey, Hannah. My question for you is, how important, in your opinion, is the media in the making of monsters and heroes?
Well, it is extremely important. Media, in a way, is nothing but ourselves. Media reflects the vision of people. So sometimes you can manipulate that when you're talking about mass media, but even though it is always the vision of someone, the interest of someone. So they have a very important paper reflecting those beliefs. And so if we grow ourselves in order to be that media, and nowadays we have social media, although there are algorithms that will value some things more than others, there is our effort to communicate, to be part of that media, to be part of that message spreading towards the world, and eventually projecting our visions to others, and sometimes even more than that, with others.
Thanks, Hannah.
Muito obrigada pelo seu poema, Renan. Obrigada, jurados, pelas perguntas. Eu gostaria de convidar agora a segunda candidata da categoria 9, Poetry Slam, para apresentar o seu poema. Então, Luísa Luz Nogueira, quando você estiver pronta, pode tirar do mudo e apresentar.
Hello. Firstly, if it is possible, I haven't been able to hear the bell for the timing, so is it possible to turn up a bit the sound? To make it a bit louder, please.
Eu acho que a gente consegue. Vanessa, se você puder desconectar o áudio e conectar de novo para o som ficar um pouquinho mais alto, porque ele está meio baixinho. Só vamos esperar o ok da Vanessa e a gente começa. Se você puder testar, Vanessa, o som.
Thank you so much.
Pode começar.
Okay, it's much better. Why do we expect for our heroes to be perfect at all times, believing that they could carry the weight of the world and not crumble apart or shatter from the inside? Not heroes like Spider-Man or Hulk, but those who save us without powers or a radioactive look. Our heroes that saves our families and fight war. Those who say their safe haven are foxholes and the 1 hour of rest in the ER. The drops of rain after a massive drought, those whom could we ever live without? Why do we hate the villain without knowing their motives? Because most of them aren't bad, just broken outcasts, exiled by our motives. Why do we wait for them to be great and carry the weight of a full ER, a dead harvest, the tanks in war, and even when afraid keep teaching our future days? We should raise a helping hand to the soldiers of our lands, to the teachers who spend years educating our future, but fear being shot and get paid so little they can barely afford their place in the loft. To the nurses and doctors that stitch back our hearts, even when their life is falling apart, they raise a helping hand to lift us out of the darkness we fell into without a plan. If people could feel the weight of the expectations, they wouldn't pressure them this much. We should expect less from the heroes we love. They are humans just like us and have their own lives. So let's stop thinking that they can't also self-destruct. Why do we want to be greater than all, but feel like the villain when a small crumble falls, expecting us to be perfectly set in society, the missing piece that has to fit perfectly, correcting the human flaws? Where has humanity gone? What have we done? Our lives just crumble upon a world where everyone wants to change but won't fight for what is great, as we'll decay waiting for them to fix our moldy graves. Because a hero is only a hero if the story is told by someone who's by their side of the lane. Could the villain have a good point in this political game? Because modern day heroes are only on TV, and we forget about those whom are in our reality. They shouldn't be forgotten, they should be made a part of history. But the true hero who will lift you up is your own hands and body that held you steady when life's most difficult things come to prove that you're the only one worthy. And even when life's falling down the drain and there is only yourself to blame. You may be the villain in your story, the worst and most lame in your point of view, but you were the hero in someone else's game. Why don't we change society to appreciate ourselves and each other in this never-ending card game where our future is unpredictable and there's only the unknown to blame? Because we are expected to be perfect in an ocean of flaws that could never be corrupted by the smallest straw. Why won't people stop looking for walking reflection, stop trying to find people who are forged to be perfection? If they stop looking for signs, stop looking for people with flawless designs, what if we changed our reviews? Would we not be so confused? Would we be less affected by others' views? Why do we keep raising our bets in this game? As if life could be that simple and we could choose not to have to run. In this forever ongoing race to see who's the number one, we live under the tip of a two-sided trade-off. Should I reach out for help or win the gold on the game to see who is the most great? Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Luísa, pelo seu discurso. E agora eu gostaria de convidar os nossos candidatos e jurados a fazerem perguntas. Gostaria de começar chamando o candidato Ricardo para fazer a primeira pergunta e o jurado Lécio para fazer a segunda pergunta.
If I may. Luisa, congratulations again. I always liked your poetry. And you say about the villains and how they are not just villains. We are not hearing their part and we are not looking at them as broken and can be fixed, can be, he integrate, put back inside the society. And I saw that already being seen in the big movies like Spider-Man, the new one, and they put the villains working together with the heroes and looking them with their flaws and everything. I saw you doing all this land, and how you understand we can integrate, put back again these kind of villains of our story in the society.
In my opinion, we should firstly look for the two sides of the story, because there are always one more person, or else it wouldn't become something known. So firstly, I would like to use the example of Solano Lopes. He is seen as a villain, a crazy man, even from our point of view, from Brazilians. But if you grab people from Paraguay, they wouldn't see him as a national hero, a man who has fought for their country. And we usually we aren't able to see that because we live in this world where the ideology of villain is someone who's really bad. And usually we all are used to observe it and not take into account their past and what they have done, others people's opinions, and sometimes even their records. Thank you.
Hello, Luisa. Luisa, have you ever caught yourself rooting for the anti-hero or the villain or any sort of outcast?
I'm so sorry, my internet stopped midway with your question. Could you please repeat?
No problem. I don't know if I'll be able to say exactly the same thing.
Oh, don't
because
worry.
the question is
It's fine.
spontaneous. Have you ever? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Have you ever caught yourself rooting for the villain or the anti-hero or the outcast in your life or in a book or anything like that?
I feel as if it really depends, because in life we usually take into account different views and we repeat to ourselves things. We are usually really affected by others' opinions, whilst rather in books, most times we get to see from a double point of view. Like some books have chapters from someone's view, from one's view and the other. But yes, sometimes we do find people. I have found myself sometimes, but after we observe more the question, we do end up understanding what we led us to that. And so yes, I could answer your question that sometimes yes, I have.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Obrigada, Luísa, pela sua poesia. Muito obrigada, jurados, pelas perguntas. E com isso, nós oficialmente encerramos a categoria 9 e as apresentações. Parabéns a todos os nossos candidatos e candidatas das categorias 7 e 9 que apresentaram aqui conosco, né? Para a categoria 9 em específico, como nós temos 2 competidores aqui, um candidato e uma candidata, e nós passaríamos 3 candidatos ou candidatas para a nossa final, tanto o Renan quanto a Luísa já estão automaticamente na nossa grande final do Your Voice. Parabéns, mas mesmo assim eles apresentaram para conseguir se prepararem mais e também para nos darem o privilégio de ouvir essas poesias incríveis uma vez a mais. Parabéns. Bom, nesse momento eu vou liberar os nossos jurados e juradas para irem para uma salinha toda especial, onde eles vão arrancar cabelo para decidir quem serão os 3 finalistas da categoria 7. Estou muito feliz que não estou no lugar deles. E, enquanto isso, né, a gente está colocando no chat o link da votação do voto popular do grupo 9. Eu sei que nós temos 2 candidatos aí, o Renan e a Luísa, mas a gente quer saber quem que é o voto popular. O link já está ali, seleciona ele, coloca no seu navegador e vote no seu favorito, tá bom? Lembrando que o candidato ou candidata que ganhar o voto popular, tanto da categoria 7 quanto da categoria 9, ganha um reader da NetGeo, né? Um livro digital interativo com temas super relevantes e que é de acordo com o nível de cada grupo aqui também. Eu tenho um desses e eu sou apaixonada. Enquanto vocês estão aí votando, enquanto os nossos jurados estão lá, enquanto os nossos candidatos estão aqui rindo de nervoso, que já passou, mas o nervosismo continua igual, eu vou passar um pouquinho mais e contar para vocês sobre as próximas fases da competição. Como eu falei, hoje saem os 3 finalistas da categoria 7 e os 2 finalistas da categoria 9 que vão ir para a nossa grande final do Your Voice. Lá eles vão encontrar mais 3 finalistas da categoria 7 e mais 3 finalistas da categoria 9 Poetry Slam, que vêm dos outros grupos. Lembra que no começo eu falei que nós temos 8 grupos, e aqui nós temos 4 grupos desses, e em outra semifinal que está acontecendo esse final de semana, nós tivemos os outros 4 grupos. Então, quando chega no final, nós temos aí esse chaveamento todo até o último momento. Todas as fases desse concurso, eles acontecem de maneira online, então você pode acessar sempre o yourvoicealvivo.culturainglesa.com.br para poder torcer para o seu candidato ou candidata favorita, tá bom? Então, na nossa grande final, no dia 27 de novembro, você vai acessar esse mesmo site. Já dá o favorito aí para não precisar se perder. Todos os candidatos aqui participantes do evento vão receber um certificado de participação, tá bom? A gente vai colocar lá no site do Your Voice, o yourvoice.culturainglesa.com.br, para vocês conseguirem baixar, se quiser imprimir, colocar na parede e tudo mais. Os candidatos que ganharem o Audience Choice, o voto popular, vão ganhar ainda um certificado a mais, certificado dizendo que eles ganharam esse voto popular. E esse certificado em específico vai por e-mail. Tá bom? Então, o candidato que ganhar voto popular tem o certificado lá no site e vai ter um certificado a mais que vai ser enviado por e-mail para vocês. E vamos lembrar também os prêmios para quem chegar na nossa final, né? Eu sei que vocês todos leram o regulamento, já sabem o que os espera, mas os candidatos que chegarem até a final estarão concorrendo a bolsas de até 100% no próximo semestre na Cultura Inglesa, num curso, e também bolsas de até 100% num exame de Cambridge, que é nivelado de acordo com o nível de vocês, né? Qualquer dos certificados que a gente está oferecendo aí para vocês. E tem uma coisa que eu não falei nas quartas de final para vocês, que é os discursos vencedores do Your Voice de todas as categorias serão veiculados nas páginas oficiais do podcast da Cultura Inglesa e dos webinars da Cultura Inglesa no YouTube também. Porque a gente sabe que é um privilégio, a gente sempre fala aqui que é tão bonito, é um privilégio escutar vocês aqui no Zoom e tudo mais, mas se é realmente bom e se a voz de vocês realmente faz a diferença, ela precisa ser divulgada para o mundo inteiro ouvir. Então, nada mais justo do que a gente colocar os nossos alunos com as opiniões deles e com a vontade de mudar o mundo para todos verem. Então, torcendo os dedos aí para sairmos não apenas os finalistas aqui, mas que a gente tenha ganhadores que participaram dessa semifinal aqui, lá no dia 27 de novembro. Tá bom? Eu sei que estamos com muitas expectativas para o resultado, mas enquanto eles estão lá decidindo os nossos finalistas, né, eu gostaria de chamar para vocês um vídeo da Cultura Inglesa Paraisópolis, tá? Que é um projeto social muito importante, está fazendo muita diferença na comunidade de Paraisópolis, em São Paulo. Então, pode rodar o vídeo.
Olá, hoje eu vou falar sobre um projeto que nos orgulha e nos realiza muito na cultura inglesa. Esta unidade foi concebida para atender apenas os moradores da comunidade, de forma 100% gratuita, apenas alunos bolsistas. Uma unidade padrão cultura inglesa.
Quando eu fiquei sabendo da oportunidade, eu fui uma das primeiras a fazer o cadastro já para tentar a sorte, graças a Deus eu consegui.
E aí tinha vaga para adulto também, né? Aí começou eu, minha esposa, minhas 2 filhas, a mais velha e a do meio. Desde então, todos nós estamos aqui.
Foi um elemento incrível aqui na comunidade.
Oferecendo cursos de inglês com a nossa excelência acadêmica, com professores cultura inglesa e com atendimento humanizado e individualizado, que são nossas características, aqui com um acompanhamento especial dos alunos. Estamos ensinando, mas estamos também aprendendo. No início da pandemia, nós tínhamos cerca de 1.300 alunos aqui em Paraisópolis. Quando tivemos que mudar rapidamente o presencial para o remoto, achávamos que muitos alunos não conseguiriam continuar, por falta de acesso à internet, sem computador, espaço adequado.
O primeiro dia foi online. Aí, não sabia entrar na aula e meu irmão entrou para mim, né? Ele me ajudou.
Foi complicado o começo, né? Aí foi passando o tempo, a gente vai se adaptando.
Grande parte dos alunos aqui de Paraisópolis conseguiram achar meios para continuar seu estudo conosco, mesmo no remoto. Uma grande e bela demonstração de capacidade de viabilização, de perseverança. Foi um aprendizado para nós. E agora retomamos aqui em Paraisópolis com o ensino presencial.
E às vezes a internet fica ruim, não dá para falar, aí presencial dá para falar pessoalmente.
Os resultados até aqui também vêm nos surpreendendo. Tivemos uma alta retenção em 2020, acima de 90%, e uma média de 92% de presença.
Uma grande lição também que a gente aprende todo dia aqui é o esforço que essas pessoas fazem.
O inglês, para mim, vai abrir possibilidades. Por isso que a gente tem que valorizar, tem que ir para aula, tem que praticar.
A cultura abriu isso, abriu essa porta, olha, você tem essa oportunidade, você consegue.
Esse é um grande valor, eles podem sonhar.
Quero trabalhar com muita arte, sabe? Disposição.
Os resultados até aqui na unidade Paraisópolis nos fazem ter uma certeza ainda maior de que vale muito a pena investir em projetos sociais. E nos traz um sentimento muito bom ao cumprir nossa missão e gerar um impacto social relevante através da educação.
Obrigado, Cultura Inglesa.
Eu amo a Cultura Inglesa Paraisópolis, eu acho que a gente tem um projeto muito legal lá e tem alunos muito dedicados. Inclusive, gente, nós temos alunos de Paraisópolis que estão competindo no Your Voice, que ontem participaram das semifinais. Eu acho que teve um deles que inclusive passou para a final, eu não tenho certeza, mas eu tenho quase certeza que sim. Então é muito legal ver eles participando conosco também, né? E fazendo com que a sua voz seja ouvida e reverberada nos 4 cantos do mundo. Eu acho muito legal. Bom, pessoal, eu fiquei sabendo aqui que vai demorar um pouquinho essa decisão, tá difícil ali na categoria 7, mas eu queria lembrá-los também que os vencedores das categorias 7 e 9 ficam com a gente aqui depois que encerrar, porque a gente vai dar um feedback personalizado e individualizado para cada um, para que consiga se preparar ainda mais para chegar no nosso final super em dia, com o texto na ponta da língua, com todas as dicas para que consiga entregar o melhor discurso possível, tá bom? Então, minha gente, fiquem por aqui, quem quiser ir pegar uma água, dar uma respirada, tá tudo bem, eu vi que tem vários aqui que já desligaram as câmeras, mas não saiam daqui, tá bom? Porque logo em breve a gente vai voltar com os nossos jurados para que eles consigam fazer a deliberação. Para você que está nos assistindo, a gente vai entrar num breve intervalinho, então você também pode pegar uma água, dar uma respirada, mas não saia daí, porque muito em breve a gente vai dar vai mostrar a nossa decisão, tá bom? Roda o intervalo. E estamos de volta. Os nossos jurados já tomaram a sua decisão e está na hora da gente descobrir quem são os queridinhos do público e quem são os 3 candidatos ou candidatas que vão representar esses grupos na grande final do Your Voice. Eu gostaria de chamar aqui a jurada Carol Reis para começar a deliberação. Carol, é com você.
Boa tarde, pessoal, tudo bem? Bom, estou muito feliz de estar aqui, de ter tido a oportunidade de escutar esses discursos incríveis que fazem a gente refletir mesmo sobre pontos. Eu adoro ver como um tema pode aí se desdobrar de várias maneiras diferentes. Gosto dos elementos culturais que aparecem nos discursos de todo mundo, e foi uma delícia também escutar as 2 poesias aqui das categorias de slam. Não é uma coisa que é muito comum para mim, então eu fico encantada mesmo. Parabéns. Bom, alguns clichês são necessários, então todos vocês já são vitoriosos por estarem aqui, por terem se inscrito, por terem passado pelas quartas de final. Então, eu queria de coração parabenizar vocês por investir esse tempo em cultura, por investir esse tempo na formação de vocês e por se disponibilizarem a falar em público em inglês, né? Que é aí uma oportunidade muito, muito rica. A gente vai começar pelos prêmios da audiência e o Lécio vai falar para vocês agora quem foram os vencedores.
Olá, boa tarde a todo mundo, mais uma vez. E vamos lá ao anúncio de quem vai levar o o Audience Choice vai levar para casa não vai levar para casa, né, porque é virtual, mas vai ganhar aí um reader digital da NetGeo. Independente, né, do próximo passo, garante esse prêmio. No grupo 7, o vencedor do Audience Choice é o Vitor, e parabéns para ele, congratulations. E no grupo 9, no Slam, quem leva é o Renan. Congratulations for both of them. Com a palavra agora, a Lua.
Olá, todo mundo. Reforço muito as palavras dos meus colegas. Quero agradecer a presença de todos, essa coragem, essa força nos discursos. E bora para o resultado dos 3 que vão para essa final. Foi bem concorrido, foi bem... Estamos nesse momento, nessa etapa que a gente vai pegando detalhes para poder definir quem vai e quem fica. E os 3 nomes que a gente tirou para a categoria 7 foram Matheus Correia, Beatriz dos Santos e Ricardo Tádio. Parabéns aos finalistas, parabéns a todo mundo que participou, parabéns também à categoria 9, aos 2 finalistas do Slam. E volta a palavra para a Cris.
Parabéns, finalistas! Vão representar maravilhosamente bem esse grupo que trouxe discursos incríveis para a gente nesse início de tarde de domingo. Parabéns a todos os participantes, parabéns aos 3 finalistas. Esperamos que vocês consigam levar com muito carinho tudo que esses grupos trouxeram até agora aqui também, tá bom? Então, pessoal, eu queria agradecer muito você que ficou com a gente aí nessa tarde, sendo um privilégio escutar esses discursos todos. Parabéns a todos que chegaram até aqui. Eu espero ver todos vocês no dia 27 de novembro também. E a gente se vê em breve, tá bom? Finalistas, continuem aqui na sala do Zoom para a gente dar o feedback. E para todos vocês, um ótimo domingo. Nos vemos em breve. Tchau, tchau.